Hello and welcome to the TRBusiness video channel. I'm here with Eugene Barry, who is EVP for Commercial, Dubai Airports. Thank you so much for coming to talk to us today. Really appreciate it.
Charlotte.
I wanted to kick off the interview with a question which is very flattering. Dubai Airport has won many awards, has received lots of different accolades over the years and has been described as a world-class airport. That's quite a broad term. I just wanted to dig a little deeper. What do you think the components are which should make up a world-class airport?
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for the compliment. And you know, it's true. I think Dubai has come such a long way over the last 58 years. We celebrated our 58th year just a couple of days ago.
Congratulations.
And thank you. And the evolution of aviation in Dubai has been so significant in itself, and also been a big contributor to the local economy and to society in general in Dubai. I think its contribution is probably disproportionate to what actually happens inside the airport, and its impact generally in Dubai. The emphasis, I think, in the past has been very much on building infrastructure and keeping pace with the growth of demand for aviation in Dubai, and then beyond Dubai, within the UAE, within the region, and now globally as a global hub for connecting passengers between East and West. So the emphasis over the past decades has been growth through infrastructure and growth through the number of airlines that have been servicing the airport, and then the evolution of our second airport, Dubai World Central, and that collective story of a hub in the middle of the Middle East region that connects the world. I think what we're shifting to and have shifted to quite recently is a new emphasis on service and consumer expectations and consumer journey throughout the airport. And that's a very subtle shift for us. So a lot of the work that's going on inside the airport today is very much in the consumer mindset, understanding consumer drivers and travelers' expectations have changed. Our demographics inside the airport have changed significantly in the last couple of years. So a lot of the recognition we're getting right now isn't for necessarily being the biggest or having the biggest airport or managing the biggest airport. It's more along the lines of what we're doing inside the airport for consumers. So a lot of what you see inside the airport today is a transformation of the consumer space from a hospitality point of view, or retail, or food, or some of the other touch points that the consumer sees as well.
So touching on the fact that obviously it is a big airport and there are an awful lot of passengers that come through, it is the world's busiest for international passengers now. That of course is great news for the airport. It's great news also for the retailers. However, it is not if there are problems with congestion and delays, queuing, which prevents them from taking opportunity of dwell time in the shops, which of course is an absolute killer for the industry. How can you go about improving that? Because it's a very difficult thing to manage, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, on a given day we have 250,000 travellers using our airport, and tomorrow that's a different 250,000 people. So our frequently every month we see 7 to 8 million passengers using our airport, and the majority of them are connecting. So their journey through the airport is very different from a passenger who's departing or arriving, in simple terms. So it's more complicated than that. But having said that, we've had a huge amount of investment recently, in recent years, on automating the processes for immigration, investing in security lanes, and focusing really on those touch points which are non-commercial. And as you said, I mean, the benefit that we have from a commercial point of view is improving the quality of not just time, but the experience of those travellers in airside locations while they're connecting through. But it's true, I mean, in any big airport, these are constant challenges. We work a lot with our stakeholders inside the airport, the immigration authorities, the security teams inside the airport, and our own terminal operations team working with those stakeholders to improve transparency of information and sharing knowledge. We have used digital tools like an airport community app, which makes sure that all of the stakeholders have the same information and understand when there are peaks in the airport, when peaks are coming on a day-to-day basis. I have access to that app. All of my colleagues have access to that app. All the retailers have access to that app, and the commercial operators. So we're not guessing anymore when we're going to reach certain peaks or troughs in our business throughout a 24-hour day, but we all have the same view. So look, as I said, our emphasis right now is improving that journey throughout the airport, and I think a lot of what we do, whether it's commercial or non-commercial, is improving the ambience, first of all, ensuring there's sufficient seating and washrooms and all of those hygiene factors are taken care of. And then getting more and more into what travellers are asking for. Massive investment in Wi-Fi over the last couple of years. It's free, it's fast, it's reliable. We see it as a tool or as a platform to improving service and information flows. And also using those platforms as well to influence or inform travellers about commercial products and services inside the airport.
Which is obviously very important when it comes to your retail partners.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that because we own the infrastructure, whether it's digital or the physical infrastructure, a lot of what we're doing is to influence travellers. And before influencing, just informing them of what's available from a product or a service point of view inside the airport. So whether that's retail and specific retail messages rather than those broader messages. So working with our commercial partners like Dubai Duty Free and all the other food and hospitality partners inside the airport to have this common view of what is available inside the airport.
Narrowing in on retail and the experience, do you think that Dubai Airport has the right mix in terms of price points, product selection and category at the moment, and do you see if there's any room for improvement?
Yeah, I think the big categories are very well served, like they are in most airports around the world. So the big categories that work very well for us, managed by Dubai Duty Free, I think they're constantly evolving with Dubai Duty Free and with the brands that they work with. So I see that as an area that is constantly being refreshed anyway. When it comes to those niche areas or speciality areas, I think that's a function of our changing demographics as well, and the changing mix between connecting travellers and originating passengers from Dubai. And connecting travellers simply have different needs. They've already been exposed, probably today on their journey, to a retail offer or a food offer in another airport, and it's important for us as that second airport on the journey to have a mix which is frequently updated, which is relevant to their needs at that moment in time, and which is competing as well with global players in other airports. So that relevance, I think, is very important for us, and that's a function really within Dubai which is unique to us, which is also unique to other big connecting airports as well. Other airports have different approaches to this, but our approach to this is relevance, and that relevance is not necessarily about having those big brands present, or they just may need to be present in a different way, and we give the opportunity in Dubai International Airport to brands to maybe express themselves a little bit differently and to be noticed differently and to push the boundaries between what is retail and what is food or what's hospitality or entertainment, and just create this platform where brands can actually experiment a little bit, either within the demise of the retailer or within the airport environment itself.
In terms of brand mix, I was pleased to see the introduction of H&M. Could you tell us a little bit about how that came to happen, and if we might see more of these sort of brands at the airport in future?
Yeah, a couple of years ago we started understanding travellers differently, and traditionally airports, like airlines, have classified travellers along the lines of destination, nationality, gender, even class of travel. And we noticed that was becoming more and more irrelevant to us, because really what we should have been looking at was behaviour and expectations, which are common regardless of where you're travelling to or from, or regardless of gender, regardless of your destination. And when we started looking at it differently, we realised that there are a lot of gaps in our airport, and not necessarily just in the retail side, also from the services point of view. For example, travellers with special dietary needs, or travellers travelling with young children, or travelling with a traveller which is dependent in some way or has different needs. And we just found that this opened up a whole new world to us. And that strategy evolved into creating districts inside the airport, and the districts are focused on particular expectations and needs. And one of the districts that we started with was a district focusing on family. And so it's young at heart really. So when we started looking at creating zones, we worked on a space conversion plan. So that took a little bit of time. So we managed some more obsolete concepts, I think, out of the airport, and we started converting space from retail to food, food to retail, seating to commercial spaces, and created a zone which was completely dedicated now to families. So it's almost complete. We're opening Hard Rock Cafe there in November. H&M is part of that zone. We've opened Candylicious, which is a candy store. We've opened recently Nutella Cafe. With Ferrero Group, we have a trampoline park, and we're also developing an indoor park, which is a picnic area as well. And there's more of that kind of stuff to come. So the emphasis in the whole zone was creating those new or relevant products and services inside that zone, and maybe experiment a little bit as well, and bringing in those products which were missing from our mix. And in the specific example of H&M, the focus there in creating that space inside the zone was, regardless of brand, we were looking at affordable but well-known and trusted essentials, which are typically not available in some of the bigger airports. So you're looking at accessories, or you're looking at picking up perhaps a t-shirt or a hoodie, which is affordable to most people, and it doesn't interfere with the luxury shopper, for example. So we looked at it that way, and it was a missing piece in our puzzle, to put it that way, but it's relevant to everything around it as well. So if we're targeting people with a particular expectation or need, it's relevant in that context, and it's not just in another area where it didn't make so much sense. We're developing districts across the airport now along those lines.
It's very interesting. It reminds me a little of Copenhagen Airport, actually, which also has H&M. So do you think you'll have more brands such as H&M in the future? Or
yeah, I think we've started something now, and it's very much case by case. So the brands that are coming into these zones are very much from the background that we don't have anything in that entire category across the whole airport. So it's not going to interfere with, for example, with a category that's currently managed by Dubai Duty Free, and that's certainly not something we want to do collectively. But it's looking at brands or entire categories that are just not present in our airport right now. And yes, you will see more of that with us, but where it's relevant.
Speaking more to the high-end consumer, with Leclerc, which has enjoyed unparalleled levels of success, which peaked with the transaction of the Macallan 1926, was it, for $1.2 million?
Yes.
Incredible. And you have been in travel retail, you're happy to say, for a number of years, since around 1994. When you started your career back then, did you ever think it would be possible for a transaction of this value to actually happen in an airport?
No, I don't think any of us did. And obviously it was a huge deal for the operator of Leclerc, MMI. It was a big deal for us as an airport from a reputational point of view, and I think from a business point, purely from a business point of view, the fact that we know that there are travellers out there who have the capacity to buy products like that, which are unique, first of all. So it's not a common transaction to take place inside an airport. You need to buy a lot of standard bottles of scotch to match that volume of business. But I think that the difference in this regard is that we do have a specialised retailer in the airport, a specialised concept, Leclerc, which is specifically targeting that type of traveller and consumer, and has a product range which is appropriate for that traveller, which perhaps in the past was underserviced or underrepresented in the airport. So for us, that shows the potential, I think, for that particular type of traveller in other categories, perhaps, going forward. So it's a great story in itself, but it also is reassuring to know that these kinds of travellers are willing to buy something in an airport environment, which is pretty unique.
Definitely. In terms of the relationship that Dubai Airports has with Dubai Duty Free, it is obviously a unique partnership that's not possible everywhere in the world, and as you would agree. There's been a lot of talk and criticism thrown at the duty-free industry, and with the partners not coming together, stakeholders not working together in a Trinity partnership. For the uninitiated, tell our viewers what the structure is of your relationship with the retailer, and then perhaps tell us how you think the other airports and other areas of the world could look to improve their partnerships.
For us, it is, you're right, I mean, it's very, very unique from a Dubai context, and we're very, I think, fortunate in the sense that it's worked very well for Dubai, it's worked very well for Dubai airports, and it's working very well for Dubai duty free. So that the ownership structure is the common link between us. Dubai airports is 100% owned by Dubai government, so is Dubai duty free, but we operate independently as commercial entities. So we're both driven by performance and success. The areas where we collaborate the most, I think, is in strategy, future space planning, and understanding the future and having a common view, I think, of what travellers' needs and expectations are coming down the road. So I think from that point of view, our relationship is very strong. It is unique to Dubai. I can see it working in many jurisdictions around the world. I've seen it replicated, perhaps in other areas, and it's worked to certain degrees. But for us, it's a model that is basically a structure, and those of us working within that structure, I think, have found practical ways of collaborating on real issues on a day-to-day basis, and making sure that the airport is providing, I guess, the environment or the conditions for Dubai duty free and all of our commercial partners to be successful. And where we see potential risks or obstacles to growth or continued growth and success, that we work very closely together with them. So there's a commercial imperative to us working together closely, but there are also non-commercial issues, I think, where we are both aligned very well. We both have the interests of aviation at heart. We both have the interests of Dubai at heart. We're both grounded in the UAE. So it makes perfect sense for us to work together well now and in the future together. So far, I mean, it's been a very successful partnership for all of us involved in it.
I ask you this question because we've been conducting some interviews recently where an airport may have mentioned that they are looking to work more directly with brands, leaving the travel retail operator out of the equation on occasion, and it appears it could be moving in this direction. Perhaps not every region in the world, but certainly in some. Obviously, you're not looking to move too far in that direction. It wouldn't work for you. But what's your view on that anyway, and then how that sort of view on the partnership?
I can't comment on other airports and what they are doing, but I think definitely airports generally are becoming more commercially minded. And in our case, Dubai Airports operates on a commercial basis. And the people that I have working in the commercial department in Dubai Airports are commercially driven, and we have sourced people, recruited people to work for us who have come from retail backgrounds, they come from hospitality backgrounds, they've come from aviation backgrounds, but they have all probably come from industries, which are industries on their own. So you can see that trend with airports, recruiting people who have come from the industry and bringing that knowledge and expertise into the airport side of the equation. I think airports have relationships with brands anyway. I've got relationships with brands through other categories like advertising, for example, through our concessionaire JCPenny. So we have different relationships with brands which are not necessarily just retail. And I think sometimes that maybe opens up opportunities which are not strictly retail. For example, is through services. We have sponsored smoking lounges in Dubai International Airport, which is very much done by a brand, which is a travel retail brand, but no retailing is taking place inside those lounges. It's basically a service which is provided for us, and through us as well. So I think we need to be mindful of the fact that retailers are retailers, and airports have a wider brief or portfolio, and we need to trust the retailers to probably get on with it most of the time. But in very specific cases, and these are case by case really, it makes sense for airports and brands to have direct relationships as well sometimes, particularly if there are big global brands that have got more than retail at the heart of what they do as well.
You mentioned JCPenny there as one of your partners. There was a unique partnership struck, I think it was last year, with Dubai Duty Free and yourselves. How is this bearing fruit so far?
It's been very significant in how it's turned things around. So we've had a long relationship with JCPenny for 10 years now in our existing concession, and it's been a very successful business relationship for us. So as we are a high-profile airport, I think we attract a lot of attention from brands who want that exposure, and that exposure into a very broad demographic of people who are traveling throughout the world. So we offer that to brands, and so it's been a very successful relationship for us. What evolved last year was bringing Dubai Duty Free into that relationship. And I think they were very interested to be part of that conversation and to be part of that arrangement going forward. So what it's done is basically, from our point of view, it's organised and reorganised ourselves inside the airport. So when we do speak to brands, we speak with one voice. And if a brand has a particular objective, and that objective may be either improve exposure, or it could be convert travellers into shoppers, or whatever the objective might be, we need to be aware very early on what that might be, because it may be a drive to store strategy, which is very tactical and directed towards that, or it may be an airport-wide strategy, which many brands have, from the time you dropped off at the curb, checking in, all the way through, and building that awareness until you get to the store. And the fact that the airport, the retailer, and the advertising concessionaire are involved in that conversation has meant that we've been able to bring much more efficiency into how we manage that. So they're not separate conversations. It's one conversation where it makes sense, and the commercial impact it has been significant. I can't say what it was, but it's been very, very pointed in the sense that we're now becoming much more focused. It's not necessarily that we are charging more for exposure at the airport. I think it's just because we're making more sense of our real estate collectively, rather than having separate conversations with brands.
Okay. Well, that was my final question. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Charles.
And hope to see you soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.